Okay, hello, my name is Marian Dale, and this is my proposal for a redesign of Linguistics 4050. Okay, so it's no secret that the COVID-19 pandemic really changed the game for the way business and education transactions occurred. So face-to-face courses have been massively transformed at very high rates into online courses. And we've seen that this is also a really interesting time for massive open online courses or MOOCs. And within this context, we've been given this problem scenario, and that frames the design that I'm going to be proposing today, which will be the transforming of this linguistics course that's previously been administered face-to-face into a massive open online course. And I'll be discussing the renegotiation of factors that has to occur and the changes that have to be made in order for this type of transformation to optimize learning goals and outcomes. So like I've mentioned, this is going to be the redesign of Linguistics 4050, which is the morphology course. And this is a graduate level core course for linguistics students who are enrolled in the master's program at UNT. And it'll be a very interesting choice for a redesign because the nature of this type of open online course is that not only are the credit-seeking students going to be participating, but the content of the course is now opened up to an international audience. Anybody, anywhere with internet could potentially enroll and enrich their understanding of linguistics, and that will allow for a wealth of international linguistic insight and discourse that'll be valuable and reach far beyond the scope of what the face-to-face iteration of this course could have achieved. The original course, the face-to-face version that I'll be referencing, was taught by Dr. Capitangiani in 2009. And that's the format that will be transformed. And in the scenario, it's being posited that I am the top professor at the university, and this is my course. But morphology is an exploration of how words are formed and the processes that take place in order to create words, to build words and to take them apart. And so morphology classes examine these processes in languages across the world and identify the different patterns that can be observed and how these patterns overlap with other areas of linguistic study like phonology, or the process for sound patterns, and syntax, which is the process for grammar patterns. All of these are interrelated, and these are other core courses that University of North Texas students have to take. So this situates morphology into the larger scope of linguistics. And the objective for this course is to introduce learners to these key properties of the process of word formation. And with that knowledge, apply the processes to real life language data and observe how it behaves. Now, the key learning goals for this transformed online class are not going to be radically different or really different at all from the face-to-face version of this course. It'll be the primary goal of the course that students grasp a working knowledge of how words are formed, and then that they're able to apply their understanding to a pre-selected set of data for testing purposes, but also to the language that they're exposed to in their daily life, in the languages that they speak, regardless of the content on the test in our course. This will be of interest and of value to speakers across the world of all linguistic interest levels and proficiency levels. Although the course is designed for graduate students, it'll be the goal of this transformation to be inclusive of non-graduate students who also are interested in studying this content at a high advanced level. And so these learning goals are going to be supported by the following principles: that the content and the design of the course be feasible, practical, comprehensible, and engaging to learners. And in order to really realize those principles, the design is going to be very important. So the course design will be learner-centered and inclusive, and I will explore those in the following slides in my choice of implemented technology, my choice of content material, and activity and assessment measures. The module that I've chosen to demonstrate for my redesign is the module 6, where we talk about inflection. And this is the definition from one of the assigned textbooks of what inflection is. It's a process of word formation that doesn't change a category of the word into a new category, but rather changes the form of the word so that it fits into different grammatical contexts. And this below is just a very rough animation that I've put together to demonstrate how inflection works. So you have a singular word like box. And then in order to change the grammatical context of the singular noun and make it plural, a type of inflection has to occur where you add the plural affix to the singular form. And then after you've added that es suffix, the word is boxes. So that's a very, very beginner, basic type of inflection, and just one of many types that would be studied in this course. But that's a very brief introduction to what I'm discussing. The face-to-face version of this course did have Canvas as the learning management system, which is pretty standard for University of North Texas classes, face-to-face, online, hybrid. This is the learning management system of choice for University of North Texas. And so I've chosen that to be the LMS for my online iteration of the morphology course. It'll be approachable and familiar to all of the UNT students. And even those who haven't used it before will find it to be very user-friendly. And I also think it's appealing because it's accommodating to the learning technologies that I'll be choosing to integrate into my redesigned course. Like I noted earlier in our problem scenario, I've been positioned as the top instructor at the university. In my moving this course to be available to anyone, anywhere, part of the theoretical appeal is that they want to be taking a class from me, the top instructor of this material. And so for that reason, I've chosen to still maintain a loose lecture-like structure. So I will be doing pre-recorded lectures using PowerPoint and sharing these, embedding them into the modules. The topic would vary, obviously, from module to module. In module 6, it'd be inflection. But in order to make this a bit more learner-centered as opposed to instructor-centered, I would take the guidance from the literature like Gao et al. And I would highly abbreviate the lecture. I would condense the instructor-centric aspect of it, and hopefully increase viewing engagement by doing 6-minute chunk videos that students can filter through at their own pace. And these lectures would be supplemented with assigned textbook chapters and open source materials that students would be encouraged to also look through at their availability and according to their interest. And that would also help prepare them for the graded assignment or the graded quiz at the end of the module. And I'll go over these in a little more detail in the next slides. So this screenshot here is showing the 2 assigned textbooks for this course. There's Lieber's Introducing Morphology 2nd edition and What is Morphology 2nd edition by Aronoff and Feudman. In the past, there have been PDF versions of both of these textbooks available, and in the event that during any point that I'm teaching this class that happened to not be the case, I would ensure that I had photocopies of the assigned chapters so that students wouldn't have to incur any expenses in order to acquire any reading materials. And then going back to the open resource activities I was referring to earlier, this is one example that might supplement their understanding of the concept of inflection as they're going along with the lectures and the assigned textbook readings. This is from University of North Texas's Language Archive, the computational resource for South Asian languages. And this is a recently scanned and recently archived copy of a 1988 field methods class that was working to document and construct a grammar of the otherwise under-resourced Coke language. And so this grammar is fully scanned and fully available, downloadable, internet accessible in our UNT Digital Library in the Language Archive. And it describes inflectional morphology. So students would have they would gain a lot of insight from looking at this in a very real context. And another option here for content delivery would be a video that students could flip through and scroll at their convenience. This is also in the computational resource for South Asian languages, and this is an analytical discussion also dealing with inflection. In this case, Dr. Chelia is discussing the properties of inflection in the Lamkong language, and she's documenting the way inflection occurs in this language. So this would be another appealing video for students that would engage the content from another angle and be accommodating to students who may get bogged down with reading a lot. They would be able to access other media to reinforce the knowledge. So my main activity for this module is going to be a field notes practice activity where students actually get to try on the role of being a documentary linguist. And their assignment would be, it's a practice activity, basically. They would be tasked during the course of the module with documenting instances of inflection that they come across in 2 different languages that they either speak or study or have some level of exposure to and some working understanding of these languages. And they would need to identify across the 6 instances 3 different types of inflection, and they would need to provide the context in which they noticed these forms occurring, if it was something that they read on Twitter, if it was something they overheard in passing, etc. Once they've done this, students would be tasked with presenting their field notes to the class using Flip, which used to be called Flipgrid and has been purchased by Microsoft, and now it's called Flip, which is a video discussion board, integrates into Canvas, and students would use Flip in order to share. They could screen share and their typed up field notes, or they could use a whiteboard feature and sketch out examples of their field notes that they've observed into the discussion thread for the rest of the class to see and learn from and participate in an ongoing topic or ongoing discussion of the topic for the week. The students who are enrolled in the credit, master's credit, would receive instructor feedback consistently. But otherwise, I would try and remain as engaged as possible in keeping the ball rolling of the feedback. But students would also be really highly encouraged to peer review one another and peer critique each other's post, how well their peers understood the assignment, how well they're understanding inflection, did they accurately present their notes, and kind of guiding them and supporting one another with their own findings. So the field notes activity, due to the size of massive open online courses, activities like this is very hard, really virtually impossible to comprehensively assess them in terms of their content merit. And really the emphasis for this activity would be on community building and practicing and solidifying the knowledge before the next activity, which would be their auto-graded quiz. And in this quiz, it would cover the content that they had been learning from their readings and exploring from the open source materials, and also, reinforcing with their field notes practice. But the quiz would be where the assignment of, the primary points in the grades for the course would come. And in addition to the quiz, the passing grade in the quiz would be how students could be awarded a completion badge for the module. I would be using the Badger software, which is a badge creating and awarding technology that also integrates into Canvas and can be used to incentivize student retention in these massive classes that sometimes have a hard time retaining student interest and engagement. So awarding students who've completed a module with a passing grade might encourage them to continue, push on, even if they're challenging themselves to a topic that they, it's an advanced topic. And there would also be an auto-graded midterm and an auto-graded final exam. This is beyond the scope of the module redesign, but just for larger context, I want to provide a little bit of this information as well. And so these midterms and the final exam, those would be other badge earning opportunities for students. And, a completion badge at the end, especially for the non-credit earning students, this would be what they have to show for their work. And the credit earning students would, be earning badges as well, but they're also getting course credit. In the original face-to-face version, there was also a group presentation, but due to the logistics and the vastness of these courses and the international aspect, overlapping time zones, I thought that presenting, organizing as a group and coordinating would not be feasible and also very hard to grade. So I chose to eliminate that activity and reallocate those points to the quizzes and the midterms and the final. And this is just a very, very brief walkthrough of the original Module 6 that spanned 2 weeks, an hour-and-a-half lecture each, with a chapter reading and a quiz and 2 face-to-face lectures. And table 2 shows my proposed redesign with video lectures, also the chapter 6, but supplemented with other readings and a field notes activity and an auto-graded quiz. And this just very, very quickly is the original point distribution for this course, where there was a participation grade. The quizzes were only for 10 points. There were homework assignments and the group presentation I was mentioning earlier. And you can see it's been really quite dramatically redesigned to automatic grading assignments and practice where students are able to review and critique one another and build the community aspect of the course. So this has been my proposal for how I would choose to redesign my course as the top professor, my morphology course, into a massive open online course that would be available beyond the scope of credit-seeking students to anyone in the world with internet access and an interest in linguistics. I've identified the key principles and factors that are essential to making this a successful redesign, and the feasibility, practicality, as I've said before, comprehensibility, and the engaging nature of the content. All of this depends on using a familiar system that's user-friendly and tech that's user-friendly, and designing and delivering content that's learner-centered, easy to access, and stimulating to students, and solidifying their understanding for their success in the future. So this has been my presentation. I have very much enjoyed what I've learned from this course, and I thank you so much.